Melissa Benoist says she is a survivor of domestic violence.
I am a survivor of domestic violence, or IPV.
Actor Melissa Benoist has faced personal demons that she's now bravely bringing to light on Instagram.
I learned what it felt like to be pinned down and slapped repeatedly, punched so hard the wind was knocked out of me, dragged by my hair across pavement, headbutted, pinched till my skin broke, shoved into a wall so hard the drywall broke, choked.
She says her abuse began verbally, escalating to the day her abuser threw a cell phone into her face.
It's still hard for me to dissect what I was thinking and feeling that kept me from stopping what felt like a runaway freight train. At the time, it felt very good how much he coveted me, how much he seemed to treasure who I was. He loved me. I thought I loved him, and I was going to make it work. There was no way that I ever would have known or had been able to guess in my situation what was going to happen and how it was going to escalate.
Her ex-husband and former Glee co-star Blake Jenner confirms it was him.
The first time it happened, he threw a smoothie at my face. It had to be secret, for shame, for fear of more attacks, for reluctance to actually admit any of it was happening. I just made excuse after excuse after excuse. You get into this habit of excusing everything and lying, essentially. Most vividly, I remember how the arguments would usually end. There would always be a click of reality snapping back into place when he would see what he had done, and a wave of guilt would wash over him. And I imagine in some subconscious effort to wash the both of us clean after what had just happened, he would carry me and put me in an empty bathtub, turn the faucet on, and leave me while he gathered himself, and I would sit in the tub. He'd kneel next to the tub crying self-hating tears with me. He never made me feel like he thought I deserved the beating, which I guess eased my mind. And in turn, I still held on to the sympathy and the empathy I felt for his brokenness he admitted to having. So I'd pull down the drain in the bathtub, and down the pipes the argument would go with its indecency, humiliation, sorrow, rage, and myself. I went down that drain every time he put me in the tub.
One incident was particularly violent. I threw my phone aimlessly and it hit my former partner in her face. It's a moment that I will regret for the rest of my life.
And then he threw something at my face again, only this time it was significantly worse. It was a blow to my face with his iPhone. The impact tore my iris, nearly ruptured my eyeball, lacerated my skin, and broke my nose. My left eye swelled shut, I had a fat lip, blood was coursing down my face, and I can remember immediately screaming at the top of my lungs.
She says she went to the ER but lied about her injuries when police came to investigate.
There were police officers at the hospital and doctors. The doctors had all pulled me aside and made him leave the room, and so many people had asked me what the origin of the injury was, and I stuck to the story, and I stuck to the story really well.
She apparently repeated that made-up story when she appeared on The Tonight Show in March 2016.
I was going down steps and I slipped and fell and hit my eye on a potted plant and tore my iris.
I made up stories of how bruises and scratches were born. I did this at photo shoots, at work, with my family, all to shield myself from my own burgeoning anger. A friend visited me where I was working. My abuser wasn't there, so she had a rare opportunity to talk to me without his looming presence. She was nervous, shaking, afraid that it would ruin our relationship, but she bravely asked me if I was a victim of domestic violence. It was the first moment I spoke about the abuse to anyone, and I can't describe the amount of relief and solace I felt. The violence I endured, and yes, even tolerated, the lies I told, the protection I gave my abuser, these facets all paint the dark and sinister portrait of that time of my life. But recusing those habits and breaking that cycle was the most rewarding, empowering choice I have ever made for myself.
It is this thing where she's really taken on this notion of strength, and you see her with young girls, where it's like, she's the thing that, they look up to, and that she lived through what she lived through, and it's horrific.
The response has been wonderful, and I wanted to share so that I could help as many people as I possibly could.
Revealing her greatest superpower, the courage to stand up for herself and inspire others to do the same.